funeral service will be conducted by Celebrant of Life celebrant Michelle Wogo Rose.
Is there a microphone? Is that? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then I don't have to worry. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my sad honor to welcome each of you with gratitude and appreciation for showing your support with your presence here today. We remember Charlotte by mourning our loss and by celebrating her life, by honoring her memory and paying tribute to her, by sharing this time together in a very personal experience. It is an ancient Jewish ritual to tear one's clothing when in mourning. Now we tear a ribbon, representing the tear in our hearts at the loss of our beloved Charlotte. Just as the tear in the ribbon can never be repaired, so can the tear in our hearts never be repaired. Wearing the ribbon permits us to release our emotions and express to others that the fabric of our lives has been torn. Charlotte's children wear the ribbon on the left side, near their heart. Others wear it on the right side. And those of you who are wearing ribbons, you want to stand up. So. Anyone else? Okay. Ooh, Our connections with other people give our lives meaning. We are joined to the people we love by bonds of affection and mutual need. Love transcends nature, weaving together the living and the dead in the loving embrace of meaningful memory. Death in many ways brings us all together. Charlotte's death for a time demands that each of us put aside our work, our cares, and our pleasures to unite ourselves with everyone here. We share a common bond of love and friendship for Charlotte. It is fitting that we should reflect on Charlotte's time with us and on the influence she had in all of our lives. Charlotte was someone who made the world around her a little more fun just by being with her. An ancient Hebrew proverb tells us to say not in grief she is no more, but live in thankfulness that she was. For that reason, thankful to have had Charlotte in our lives, we remember her as the treasured daughter of her late parents, Samuel and Eva Wahlberg, as the caring sister of the late Ethelwyn and husband Harry Glick, and the late Rosalind and husband Marks, as the beloved wife of the late Marvin Miner, as the cherished mother of Deidre Berkowitz, Tina and husband Jeffrey Mills, Amy and husband Robert Coito, and Carrie Miner, as the loving grandmother of Daniel and wife Daniela Berkowitz, Elise Berkowitz and husband Alex Brown, Hillary and husband Brandon Owens, Andrew Mills and Katie Coito, and great-grandchildren Chaya Amuna and Shalva Leah Berkowitz, as the fond aunt of many nieces and nephews, and as the former wife of the late Sam Lewis. It is a tradition to read a selection from Proverbs 31 entitled A Woman of Valor at a Woman's Funeral. I would like to read a contemporary interpretation by Eric S. Kingston that truly describes Charlotte. This version is dedicated to all the women who showed us what true strength is. A woman of valor makes the world change. Her strength is the content that guides through the days. Defined by her actions that bring light to all dreams, valor is something that's defined by her deeds. Her valor is golden, sparkled, and gray. She stands up to the challenge, no matter the way. It can't be held back or defined by her age. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. For valor is not held by the young or the old, but by the deeds of the heart that give and unfold. It's mirror and honor that hold no disguise, like the creation of being and the blessed holding one's eyes. For valor is the color of the song of her soul, as she changes, creates, and turns light into gold. Divine is her presence, be it joyous or sad. A woman of valor may offer little, but it will be all that she has. For only her heart will know the depths of her soul that nurtures and blossoms and forever unfolds, and holds in its essence new life and new gain. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. A woman of valor makes the world change. Charlotte made the world change one person at a time by the impact she had on each and every person she met in her life. Chic and flamboyant are the first words that come to mind when describing Charlotte, along with charming, glamorous, fashionable, smart, and cultured. In remembering Charlotte, I would like to ask Deidre to read a poem called Do Not Go Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas, which definitely would describe Charlotte's attitude of, to carry on and keep moving and keep doing.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked not lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last, wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men, who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see that blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my mother, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
I would now like to read a poem entitled The Measure of a Person, which aptly describes Charlotte and reminds us of how she impacted the lives of those fortunate enough to have been a part of her life. The measure of a person. Not how did she die, but how did she live? What did she gain? Not what did she gain, but what did she give? Not what was her status, but did she have a heart? And how did she play her God-given part? Not what were her beliefs, not what was her creed, but had she befriended those really in need? Was she ever ready with a word of good cheer, not to bring back a smile to banish a tear? These are the units to measure the worth of a person regardless of birth. Not what did the notice in the newspaper say, but how many were saddened when Charlotte Minor passed away. And I would like to read words by two of her daughters who were able to write it, but not able to come up and speak, which is very understandable if you've ever been in this situation. First, this is what Tina has to say. Dear Mom, This letter has many emotions tied up today, and in grief I write. I miss you and feel your absence. When I look around, you are the person missing. Our shopping sprees to Neiman Marcus, Armani, and special lunches at Mariposa will never be the same. Family Thanksgivings and frequent visits to California will forever be empty in my heart. Here, your approval of my life as I have chosen has always been rewarding to me. Accepting life's changes is never easy for anyone. I know you only hoped for a bright and happy future for me. Lucky to say, I have achieved that. Thank you for the long life I had with you. I am blessed forever in my heart. And Amy, other daughter, writes, my mom was an extremely vivacious woman who lived her life to the fullest until the day she died. She was forever the most beautiful woman in the room, even if it took her hours to prepare for the occasion. I think hours might be an understatement based on what they told me. She had perfect makeup, hair, and poise, no matter where she had to be. She loved, underlined, shopping in any shape or form, and tried to give her skills to us from the moment we were born. From Michigan Avenue to Loman's, and later to Marshall's and Ross for less. There was always something to find. As children, we were perfectly groomed for every occasion. Unfortunately, I was unable to keep the trend going. Mom also loved people and travel. She met people wherever she went, all around the world. Even to her dying day, she had a trip planned for us to go to New York. She never sat still for a moment. She loved to visit us in California as often as she could. Last year, 3 times in 1 month, as we expected it would be her last bit of travel. When she arrived, she would say, "Let's go!" And away we would go, night and day, until we dropped from exhaustion, only to begin again. And my guess is that her daughters dropped from exhaustion, but Charlotte never did. She and my dad were amazing cooks and loved to entertain. Every weekend was another party, celebration for every occasion that came along. We were there as little servants, and I would make the desserts. We were raised in the kitchen from a very early age. Those skills we all carry even to this day. She loved the finest foods and restaurants from Ben Moy to Charlie Trotter and beyond. There was nothing she would not experience as part of her zest for life. For Mom, everything was an adventure, even her desire to have a relationship in her life until the last few months of her existence. She broke all boundaries and rules. She always said, "I will lay down when I die," when I asked her for a break, and actually, that's what she did. Mom, I have your spirit, your zest for travel and beyond. One day, we will take that trip together. I love you and miss you so much. Relieved you are suffering no longer. Always your daughter, Amy. Charlotte Jane Wahlberg was born on July 12, 1927, to Samuel and Eva Wahlberg, the middle child to sisters Ethelwyn and Rosalind. When she was 5 or 6, she contracted scarlet fever, which in those days was a very serious illness. Hence, she was overprotected by her parents. Some might even say she was a spoiled child. That experience helped Char develop a strong sense of connection to her immediate family. Family orientation was a trait she valued all through her life. Char lived in Crystal Lake as a young child, then her family moved to Wilmette, where she graduated from New Trier High School. After high school, she attended finishing school, where she cultivated and perfected her fashion sense and was known for her very long eyelashes. In the school yearbook, she was voted as having the best nails. Char enjoyed the attention of men. One could easily call her flirtatious. As early as high school, boys fought over who would carry her books. She married her high school sweetheart, Sam Lewis, in 1948 at the elegant Drake Hotel. After a honeymoon in South America, they lived in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood, where Deidre was born in 1950. Charlotte and Sam divorced in 1954, an uncommon occurrence in those days, as divorced women were scorned. So Char dated extensively, actively looking for a husband, demonstrating her excellent taste in men. She married Marvin Miner in 1957. They were married in a courthouse wedding, which displeased her parents, so the next day they were married again by a rabbi. From her marriage to Marvin came her other three daughters, Tina and twins Carrie and Amy. She raised all her girls to appreciate culture, taking them to museums, theater, opera, concerts, and of course, shopping. Shopping was her favorite activity, especially, as I think Tina mentioned, at stores like Armani, Gucci, and Neiman Marcus. The salespeople in these stores not only knew her by name, but also knew her impeccable taste in clothing. She was often mistaken for a model. She was so exquisitely put together fashion-wise. Had there been a job of personal shopper in those days, it would have been a perfect job for her. Dorothy Parker, a 20th century author with a witty and wisecracking outlook on life, once said, "Years are only garments, and you either wear them with style all your life, or else you go dowdy to the grave." Charlotte certainly wore her years with style. She was a true fashionista, expertly coordinating gorgeous outfits, including jewelry, scarves, and accessories, often in bright colors. It was so important to her to be impeccably groomed and stylishly dressed, hair perfectly coiffed, and makeup flawlessly applied, that it took her hours to perfect her look before leaving the house. When Marvin died in 2000, at the age of 77, on their 42nd wedding anniversary, Char was alone for the first time in her life at the age of 71, never having made any decisions on her own. She began to enjoy her independence, redefining how she lived her life, selling the big house in Highland Park and moving to a condo on Wilmette's lakefront. After traveling with Marvin to many parts of the world, she continued her travel habit after he died, enlisting a travel agent friend or her daughters as travel partners. In her travels to exotic countries, she tasted any native food, usually things most of us wouldn't try. Charlotte enjoyed reading, taking pleasure in all genres of books. She also voraciously read newspapers, with her favorite section being the stock market news, monitoring her investments very closely. It was important for her to keep up with current affairs, as she enjoyed participating in interesting conversations. A woman of great class and sophistication, Charlotte had a larger-than-life, exuberant personality, was the life of any party, and enjoyed entertaining at her large Highland Park home. Entertaining in those days required getting dressed up, cooking up a storm, serving cocktails, and elaborate sit-down dinners. She enlisted her daughters to help serve, although they were not allowed to mingle with the adults. Visiting her in her home, one could experience her hostess with the mostest personality. One could not leave her house without eating or drinking something. "I feel bad, you're not eating or drinking," she would say. Charlotte was a woman on the go, always willing to go anywhere and do anything. She didn't want to miss anything life had to offer. And as one of the daughters mentioned, if anyone would dare suggest she slow down or sleep, her response was, "I'll lay down when I'm dead." She was very active, always exercising and working out. She probably inherited the exercise gene from her own mother, who was also an exercise fanatic. For her 90th birthday, Char took her mother to a spa, an event that made the local newspaper. Visiting California was her cure-all. She instantly felt better in California, said she felt she didn't need any of her prescriptions there. After living through this winter in Chicago, most of us can understand and agree with that philosophy. And I have another poem that the family wanted me to read called Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I'm 1,000 winds that blow, and the diamonds glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain, and the gentle autumn's rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. I now invite you to silently reflect what it has meant to you to experience Charlotte's presence, remembering how her fashion sense, her high energy level, her witty sense of humor, and her fun-loving personality impacted each of our lives. What? I'm sorry, what? Elise wanted to say something.
Yes.
Okay, come on up. Okay. I'm sorry.
We'll reflect in a minute.
What?
We'll reflect in a minute.
Oh, that's fine.
Before I begin, I want to thank my mom, my aunts, Amy, Carrie, and Tina, and our incredible caregivers, Kathy and Nina, for their dedication and the care they gave my grandmother. We are just so grateful for you guys. You've really exemplified what it means to care for a loved one, and we just love you and really appreciate you. I think we can all agree that if my grandma Char was here today, she'd be playing a lively game of who wore it best, with whoever was sitting next to her. She was just effortlessly chic and always up for a good time. Grandma absolutely loathed boredom and enthusiastically embraced the fun parts of life. Together with Grandpa Marvin, and at times with friends, she saw the world. She filled her home with exotic snacks, artwork, jewelry, and textiles from these trips, and there were almost always gifts for the grandchildren. Growing up, Dan and I were so lucky to have Grandma nearby. She cheered us on at sporting events, came to dance recitals, and was a regular every Friday night at Shabbos dinner. She was almost always a good sport, and definitely understood the power of showing up for her loved ones. My brother Dan wasn't able to fly in from Israel today, but he's shared some thoughts that he wanted me to pass along today. To him, Grandma would always be Nana Char, that's what he called her. As a kid, Dan remembers sleepovers at Nana Char and Grandpa Marvin's home in Highland Park. Sleeping over at Nana Char's was like a trip into the family's past. Every room was still, all the same colors, where all of our aunts stayed in the rooms that they grew up in. Their dolls were out. They were just super fun for young kids. And we loved going there. Dan loved cuddling up with Nana Char and Grandpa Marvin in their huge master bedroom for TV and movie nights. And in mornings, he was always treated to omelets with toast and freshly squeezed orange juice, their signature breakfast, even if we were really, really little kids and that seemed like extremely grown-up food. Grandma taught us about picking fresh raspberries from the bushes in her backyard, putting edible flowers on salads for the perfect garnish, and doctoring up a cup of coffee with just about everything available at the Jewel Osco coffee counter. She was fiercely independent and strong-willed. She encouraged us all to chart our own path. Grandma could be critical of her kids, but I will always remember how proud she was to share stories about my aunts, my mom, Hillary, Andrew, and Katie. She would tell anyone who would listen about her daughters in LA who had befriended the movie stars, and how then toddler Katie gave the best granddaughter cuddles. I spent a summer in college living with Grandma, and she was one of my favorite roommates. We spent weekend afternoons walking along the lake together, sharing stories, checking out all the lakefront real estate, and talking about the theater and opera she had been to the night before. During the week, she'd help quiz me on my political philosophy and game theory for a class I was taking, and I'd often return home from my summer job to find Grandma waiting for me with either dinner ready or an outfit laid out for me for our dinner date together that night. Grandma Char was one of 3 daughters, and her sisters, Roz and Wynn, just the 3 of them together, were such a force to be reckoned with. They built the foundation of what has become a beautiful and large family, and often tried to bring us all together. They shared a tremendous love of the arts and passed it down to their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Dan is absolutely right when he says that Nana Char was far from the stereotype of a Jewish grandmother. Yet she fondly remembered visiting her own grandparents in Crystal Lake for holidays. She used to tell us stories about taking in the delectable smell of freshly baked challah and Eastern European food from her grandmother, Molly. Grandma, we will miss you, but we know that your legacy lives on in each of us. Each time we eat a piece of toffee, pull together a really killer outfit, or just stop to recognize and appreciate something truly, truly beautiful, we will think of you.
Let us now pause for a moment of silent reflection on the memory of Charlotte Miner. As you visit the family for Shiva today or tomorrow, please take the opportunity to share those memories with the family. Loving memory is our greatest tribute. Let us enter this meditation with reverence and with love. In recognition of the cycle of life and death, where the two are inextricably bound, Charlotte's spirit, energy, and presence persist even in her absence. We will remember Charlotte in all seasons. We will remember Charlotte with all emotions. We will remember Charlotte for all reasons. For as long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we will remember Charlotte. I paraphrase the late author and lecturer Leo Buscaglia, who said, "I know for certain that we never lose the people we love, even to death. Char will continue to participate in every act, in every thought, and in every decision we make. Her love leaves an indelible imprint. We find tremendous comfort in knowing that our lives have been enriched by knowing her." We are here to celebrate Charlotte's life, but we also come to mourn in the silent, empty spaces once filled with her smile, her companionship, her friendship, and her love, to mourn the loss of her physical presence, and to mourn for the times when her presence will be sorely missed, those times when her family and friends mark the passages of their lives. Charlotte may not have been a particularly religious woman, but the 23rd Psalm gives many people comfort after the death of a loved one, consoling us during those sad times of loss. This psalm can give us the reason to continue and the courage to move on when we tell ourselves we would rather give in. It tells us that God is with us in both the joyful and difficult times. God's presence is shown by giving us the shepherd's rod and staff, which we interpret as faith and hope. Faith that God is all good and everything is for the best. Hope for a better tomorrow and to find the way to carry on. God never promised us that life would be fair. God only promised us that when we go through those unfair times, we would not be alone. The 23rd Psalm speaks to that promise. And I invite you to read it along with me in the English from the inside of your service booklet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. And I now would like to read it in the Hebrew. Adonai ro'i lo echsar. Binot desha arbatseni, almei menuchot yinachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev. Yankeni b'madleit tzedek lama'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo ira ra, ki ata imodi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yinachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. Achtov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamin. Many people call the Kaddish prayer a prayer for the dead, but nowhere does it mention death. However, the Hebrew prayer, entitled El Malei Rachamim, which translates to God filled with compassion, speaks of how the soul, having sojourned in the physical world, is now restored to the everlasting source of life, to the continuum of being, reality, and holy presence. May the source of life, and that's in your pamphlets also, if you'd like to read that together with me. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we may glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May the memory of Charlotte J. Meyer, daughter of Samuel and Eva Walker, be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds. And may the bond of love we share with our beloved Charlotte be not severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and let us say. And for those of you who wish to and are able to, I invite you to stand while I read that in the Hebrew. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim. Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah. B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tahorim K'Zohar HaRakia Masirim Et Nishmat HaYikara Shalanu Shalcha L'Olama. B'gan Eden Tehei Menuchata. Lachein Baal HaRachamim Yastireha B'Seter K'nafav L'Olamim. B'Yitzror B'Yitzror HaChayim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nechalata. V'tanuach al mishkava v'shalom v'nomar amen. You may be seated. Charlotte was and always will remain a part of you. Treasure Charlotte's memory. Hold those memories close to you still. You will carry Charlotte with you always in your heart. The sharp edges of this pain, this relentless sadness, will in due time give way to something gentler, something more bearable. What makes this tribute sacred is the spirit of love and support that you bring to celebrate Charlotte's life and to share your compassion with her family and friends. We live on in the lives of those we imprint. We live on in the lives of those who love us. The relationships and the stories that Charlotte's life created will keep her memory alive. May your memories of Charlotte be a source of comfort, tears, laughter, and inspiration. In closing, may you use those gifts you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. This concludes the chapel portion of our remembrance of Charlotte Meyer. We will continue graveside at Memorial